Americans are confused about food. They want to eat healthier, but they don't quite know where to start. I'll show you how small changes can have a large impact on your health. For most Americans, it's as easy as this. Eat less, move more. Include more fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes, and avoid processed foods high in harmful fats, sugars, and salt. Hi, I'm Laura Davidson, registered dietitian and assistant professor of nutrition at Community College of Philadelphia. Today on Good Nutrition Made Easy, we'll talk about choosing food for your plate that tastes great and keeps you healthy. We need to get our plates in shape. Think about the food you put on your plate. Do you dish up healthy foods like vegetables, fruits, whole grains, low-fat dairy, and lean protein? Or is your plate filled with empty calorie foods, high in sugars and unhealthy fats? We're eating too much food. The dietary guidelines say that we should enjoy our food, but eat less. Most Americans are eating far too many calories, which is the reason why 68% of us are too heavy for our good health, and at least 1 out of 5 children weigh too much. Keep the eye on the portions. It may be helpful to use some of these reminders. When you're talking about the portion of a piece of meat, chicken, fish, we generally use a deck of cards to indicate a 3-ounce portion. When we're talking about a cup of salad or a green vegetable, a baseball is a good cue. And when we're talking about something like a pasta dish or macaroni, the size of a 3-way light bulb can give you an indication. Now, one of the problems is when you put these foods of the correct portion on your plate, sometimes they seem a bit lost, okay? So one of the strategies that many people have decided is very helpful is to use a smaller plate. This is actually sold as a salad plate, but for many people these days, this is a more appropriate size plate to use. And when we do load it up with the appropriate portions of food, we end up having a plate that's more pleasing to the eye because it doesn't seem so empty. Another idea having to do with portions is to try to prepare your own food more often. Restaurants serve large portions, and it's very easy to consume hundreds and even thousands of extra calories when eating out. What we should be doing when we're talking about the proportion of food on our plate is to make half of our plate filled with fruits and vegetables. Remember, more fruits and vegetables is very healthy for us in so many ways that I can't even count. In fact, remember to use fruits and vegetables as snacks as well. As far as the grain portion of your plate, try to choose foods that have their first ingredient as a whole grain. So whole grain pasta, brown rice. And finally, as far as the protein portion of the plate, be sure to choose lean proteins and in some cases plant proteins. So things like beans instead of meat on occasion makes a good choice that's much lower in fat, high in fiber, and full of good nutrition. Finally, limit the red meats and the processed meats such as bacon, sausage, and hot dogs. Remember, watch what you're drinking as well. Stay away from the high sugar beverages like soft drinks, sweet teas, and juice drinks. Switch to fat-free milk and in many cases water as a good replacement for those beverages. Lastly, let's turn to color. Our food tends to be brown and different shades of brown. Think about it. We eat hoagies and cheesesteaks and fries and donuts and chips. What we're missing are the fruits and the vegetables filled with all of those colors. Fruits and vegetables bring to our table vitamins and minerals, fluid, fiber, and disease-fighting phytochemicals. Eating more fruits and vegetables is a recommendation for preventing the diseases that Americans are suffering and dying from. When we come back, we'll talk to someone who has great information on where to buy the freshest fruits and vegetables. Welcome back. I'd like to introduce Bob Pearson, the director of Farm to City, which runs 16 farmers markets in Philadelphia and the suburbs. Bob is recognized as, and I quote from a March 24th article in the Philadelphia Inquirer by Virginia Smith, the pioneer of the modern neighborhood farmers market in Philadelphia, as well as mentor, guide, workhorse, at once visionary and detail guy. I am so excited to talk to you today. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for the invitation.
Bob, I have some questions for you, but let's start here. In that same article, Virginia Smith states that you started agitating on your own in the early 90s. I'm curious about that. Tell our viewers about the reason for that agitation. What brought you to the point of setting up farmers markets?
Okay, this goes back quite a ways to my youth. I was in Italy 3 years on a fellowship, and there I was amazed that all the Italians, not only did they know where their food came from, but they argued with each other which field had the best grapes or tomatoes or whatever it was. And that left an impression on me. Then my wife and I moved to Madison, Wisconsin, where we joined a food buying cooperative that was growing quite rapidly, and the food was coming from the Food Distribution Center in Chicago. And so I volunteered to lead a committee that was try to recruit farmers from the Madison area to grow for it. And we got 60 farmers showed up one February morning, I think it was 1971, and wanted to grow for it. And who wants to grow carrots? Who wants to grow broccoli? Go there and go there. And after 4 hours, we had it all figured out. A long list of produce items, probably about 50 or 60. And that left an impression on me. And then I had a career in regional planning with engineering firms and planning firms. And I worked on land use plans, and some of them were all of them had agricultural preservation components to them. And then there was a friend of my brother's from high school in Bucks County, a fellow named Joe Abrams. He was kind of the philosopher of South Street, where we live. And I asked him once, how do we save this open space? He says, well, open space is farmland. And I said, yeah. And farmers are the ones that are farming, aren't they? And I said, yeah. And he says, well, you got to save the farmers. They have to earn enough money to stay on that land. Then you'll save your open space. And it's such an obvious thing. But then the light bulb went on. And I wrote down as a goal for the 90s to start a farmer's market. And then it happened in 96. I got together with two friends of mine in the South Street corridor, Howard Lander, who was a developer for the Whole Foods down there, and Frank Hobson, who worked in a store down there. And we started South and Passaic Farmers Market. It turned out to be the first one. We didn't know it, but it was the first one of this current generation of farmers markets to start. And it just all kind of opened up from there.
Tell us about Farm to City now.
Farm to City is a small business. Back to '96, I got a job that year with what's called the Food Trust now, and I started their outdoor market program with about 7 farmers markets. And I left there in 2000 to be more the advocate for the farmer. Their goal is a good one. It's to get affordable food into people's houses, but I figured without really supporting the farmers, we're not going to get there. And so I started Farm to City as a small business. And the first year in 2001 we were operating, we had started with 4 farmers markets. We started a buying club, modeled after the one in Madison, and this was called Winter Harvest. And that one is you can go online and order from a list of 575 items that are made by local food businesses, and most of it comes from local farms in this region. And we deliver to 18 different locations in Philadelphia and outside of Philadelphia once a week, and people order once every 2 weeks for whatever they want. They can skip weeks or can buy whatever they want. So it's like an online store, and that's starting up this week. So it'll go from now until November. Our third program is it's CSA. That stands for Community Supported Agriculture, and that doesn't tell you too much. It means you get a box of food every week or every other week from the farm, delivered to a place near you, or you go out to the farm and pick it up. And then another program that we have, and it's a CSA-like program. We call it Food Share. And we do that in cooperation with the Philadelphia Common Market, which is a distribution center for locally produced food. It's dedicated to giving the farmers a fair price and selling it to people who want to know where their food's coming from. And so we cooperated with them. We do the front-end sales on that, and then they deliver the food. And this year we sold, it's our second year. First year was a pilot. We sold to over 600 office workers in downtown corporations, nonprofits, and government office, and several outside the city. So it's booming. We expect to at least double it next year.
That's amazing.
So those are the basic programs. We also allow other farms and farm groups to use our website to put up their own CSAs. Some of them have their web pages on our website, and we manage it for them and nip them a little bit for the service that we provide. For some CSA farms, we provide bookkeeping services during the recruiting period. We recruit the people and then hand them over the list and the money at the end of the recruiting season.
Wow.
So it's been very exciting over these years, and I designed it that way so I would have something to do in the wintertime, and now we're just so busy. I've got 2 employees beside myself and a part-time bookkeeper. So it's really been wonderful.
It's taking off, you said.
Oh yeah, it keeps growing.
And what you're doing is you're connecting the people who want this food that's grown locally with the farmers who want to make a good business providing it,
yes.
which is neat. Do you get the feeling, and I know you speak a lot and certainly through your work, that more and more people are interested in buying from local farms, knowing where their food comes from?
We have a good index of that in how our sales have gone up. And it's in 1996 with the South and Passyunk Farmers Market, the farmers that year sold $40,000 worth of food. In 2001, when the first year we started Farm to Cities programs, the farmers sold, all our programs sold $200,000 worth of food. And this year we may hit $3 million.
Wow.
Okay. Now you add to that the food trust outdoor markets. You add to that some of the supermarkets are catching on to it, and there's also some local food that they never bragged about before, but now they're starting to put labels on it because they see what's coming, the competition from the local farmers. So it's really snowballed in the last decade. It's been a wonderful experience.
It sounds fascinating. So I want to shift now to talking to some of our viewers who perhaps are not familiar with this movement or have not really bought into it. They don't think it's worth it. Why bother?
And it has to do with the freshness of the produce. It has to do with how it tastes. It has to do with supporting local farmers, their rural neighborhoods, and the regional economy. And it also has to do with lowering our carbon footprint on this planet in the face of global warming.
I also wonder, one of the things that I use to convince people to at least try locally grown produce is it's so much tastier. It tastes so good. But my students are not only concerned with taste. When I'm teaching in the classroom, they bring up the factor of cost. And they say, but Mrs. Davidson, those foods from the farmers market sometimes cost so much more than what I might buy at my grocery store. Do you find that to be the case?
Yes, it's a fairly accurate generalization. So there's several reasons for it. One is that the farmers know what the prices. Now they know what the prices in the supermarkets are, and so they'll bring them in close to that because they know they can get it.
Okay.
And that they figure they have a kind of a hook on that. An additional reason because of these things I mentioned earlier. It's fresher and it tastes better and it's better for you. The other main reason is that our food is subsidized through the large corporations and the farmers, and they get billions of dollars in subsidy to grow, to transport it, and deliver it to us. So it's not a level playing field. Small farmers don't get those subsidies. They don't qualify for them, and some of them wouldn't take it. The Amish wouldn't take any help from the government like that. And these subsidies crept in just after World War II, and that was really the start of the industrial agriculture with the use of chemical fertilizers and chemical pesticides. And that when the farmers used those, they got the ones that survived got more efficient, and the ones that didn't want to use it had to get out. And that's led to our cheap food. Current generations are used to cheaper and cheaper food. And so when the true cost of food, if it were included in the supermarket food, it would skyrocket because if those subsidies went away. And consumers had to pay that, and farmers couldn't insult the environment with their pesticides and their fertilizers and their long-distance hauls.
Still talking to that same group of viewers, the ones that say, well, maybe I'll do this. You're essentially saying with that last statement, we get what we pay for.
Yes.
It might cost more,
Yeah.
but let's look at the bigger picture here. And it's not appreciably more. You're talking about a few pennies to an apple, maybe?
It varies. It depends on what it is. I can't make a
Okay.
generalization.
Okay.
I think generally I think it's competitive.
Yeah. Okay. So what does the viewer do who says, okay, I'll start. I'll try to include more local foods. I often discuss small changes that maybe you can't change everything at once, but what would be a good action plan? Where could you start?
All right. There's several things that people can do. Is you start by buying your food get to know your local farmer at your farmer's market. The farmer's markets turn out to be the public face of the local food movement. They're visible, they're out there, people can approach them and see what they have and talk to them. And that's one of the most amazing things I've seen about the farmers markets. And we opened the South and Passyunk farmers market. There were traffic jams on the sidewalk of baby carriages of women doing it. And neighbors that hadn't talked to each other for years met each other there. So it's a social environment too. It's a big democratic space where people can go. And so my advice is go to the farmers, get to know the farmers, pick several foods that you're familiar with. And if you don't have one, try to restore your kitchen culture. Learn how to cook that stuff. And sit down with your family or your friends and eat it. And that's your first step. And you'll see how good it is and how much fun it is to cook it and sit down with friends and family and enjoy it.
I love that first step. That sounds great. Any last words of wisdom for our viewers?
Well, I'd say avoid the center aisles of the supermarket. That's where you find the very highly processed foods that have too much salt in them, too much sugar in them, and that's usually in the form of fructose corn sugar, and they have too much of the wrong kinds of fats. And they also, many of them, contain genetically modified organisms. Another thing that people might do is to you join a local organization or a cooperative, start a community garden. There are two good food cooperatives in Philadelphia. One's up at Weaver's Way in Mount Airy, and the other one is in West Philadelphia at Mariposa Co-op. And there's others that are coming up that are in planning stages on Kensington and in South Philadelphia. So there's a lot of things that you can do to help support the local food movement.
Thank you for all that information. Just because we pack so much in, what is your website so what viewers can visit to find a lot of this information?
Sure. Our website is farmtocity.org.
Okay.
And it's FARMTOCITY.
Thank you so much. Great information. We'll be back shortly and we'll put some of this information to work when we put together a very delicious, locally based recipe. Okay. Welcome back. I'd like to introduce Katie Lynott. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you.
Katie's going to help me today with a recipe and with a demonstration. But first, Katie, you were sharing with me that you enjoy fruits and vegetables.
I do.
How do you get enough of them in your diet? Do you have any strategies that you use?
Well, as a student, I'm always on the go. So I grab bananas, apples, as snacks during the day. And then I like to put fruits in my cereal, oatmeal, yogurt.
Okay. So it helps to enjoy them, but it sounds like also you've used them as a quick and easy type of food to eat too.
Yep.
Often people complain about healthy food taking too long, and in this case, that isn't the case, is it? Yeah. All right. Before we do some work here, I'd like to share some helpful research with our viewers. It's about the type of food that we put on our plate and the effect of that food on our body weight, which is a concern to many people. Sometimes research is interesting, but doesn't really give us any information we can actually use. This is different. We get some stuff we can use. The research was published in the American College of Sports Medicine Health and Fitness Journal this year. The article is titled "Too Good to Be True: Eating More and Losing Weight with a Low Energy Dense Diet." And the too good to be true part of that is eating more but losing weight. We all know how difficult weight loss can be. Weight maintenance can be an even greater challenge. This research showed that food choice can make weight loss and weight maintenance easier. When high-calorie, high-energy-dense food is replaced with low-calorie, low-energy-dense food, feelings of hunger are lessened and weight loss is promoted. When combined with increased physical activity, the plan actually worked. let's look at the term low energy dense foods. Energy density is the amount of calories in a given weight of the food. High energy dense foods include foods such as cookies and muffins and pastries and even cheese. Foods that are generally rich in fat and sugar. Foods with a low energy density tend to have more water and fiber, making them bulkier. They keep you satisfied despite their lower calorie level. What is fascinating here is that you can eat a reasonable portion of food and still lose weight, and that's a win-win situation. This research is especially interesting to me because it reinforces the change in plate that we were previously discussing, with an emphasis on fruits and vegetables, which are low energy dense foods. So let's do the math. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to calculate calories per gram, and I'm going to let Katie feed me the numbers. Let's do this for the chips.
Okay.
So in the whole bag, first of all, how many calories?
140. Oh, in the entire package.
In the entire?
I apologize. 290.
290. And then what is the weight of the entire package? It would be double that, 2856. Okay. So we divide 290 by 56, and Katie, the number is 5.1. So let's write that down so our viewers can remember it, and we're going to compare here. By the way, 5.1 is a high energy dense food, but let me show you how it turns out for an apple. Okay? So in this apple, I know that there are about 81 calories, okay? And I know the weight of that apple, because I have it here in front of me, is 138 grams, okay? The magic number there is 0.6. We'll round it off, okay? So it's calories divided by weight. And it turns out that this apple is a low energy dense food. Look at the difference in those numbers there. It's a bit of fancy math, and I tend to like math. I'm a kind of a math nerd, but it shows you actually, it's a reflection of the things in food that don't have calories, like fluid and fiber. And the neat thing about this system is when you choose low energy dense foods, you're choosing the healthier things like the fruits and the vegetables and the whole grains, the leaner proteins, and you're still staying satisfied with the amount of food that you're allowed. Let me show you this in a picture format here. What you're looking at are two different meals, each actually with the same number of calories, 600 calories. You have a cheeseburger with bacon on the top compared to this large volume of food, the soup with the apple and the sandwich on whole grain bread with the lettuce and the tomato and the whole grain crackers. So you essentially get more food in the lower energy density category. It's a lot more fun than being deprived of food, and you tend to eat fewer calories. It's a great way to think about food choice, I think, and something new. A lot of this research, by the way, came out of Penn State University. So let's put it to action here. And what we're going to do is we're going to put together a low energy dense recipe. And we're actually going to put together a ginger carrot salad with cranberries. We've got our carrots all ready to go. And we're going to show that healthy food can be really fast food. You've got to have the ingredients on hand,
right? But
let's go to it.
Okay.
So we'll put you to work with the dressing. And the dressing is a tablespoon of, let me give you a knife here to cut that in half, of your lemon juice. Okay. Squeeze about a tablespoon. And after you get that tablespoon in there, Katie's doing all the hard work. We're going to put in a half a teaspoon of honey. And then I get the ginger ready. Okay. Try to peel off some of the skin so that it's easy to grate and we don't get the skin into our salad. Ginger is such a great addition. Very strong though. Yes. Very little ginger is needed. This actually only needs about a teaspoon of the ginger. And I have typically peeled it, and then I did a little research, and the great chefs say to just use a spoon to rub away the skin. You lose less. So you're going to add the cinnamon, okay? And why don't I start grating a little ginger here?
That smells really good.
It does smell good. Yeah. It is powerful stuff. And let's see where we should go with the grating. Maybe there. So we're going to add a little ginger.
Cinnamon's in.
Pinch of salt.
Okay.
It's nice to have a helper in the kitchen.
Right?
I actually tell students that, make it a time that you kind of unwind after a stressful day. Grab the kids, grab the husband or the boyfriend or the friends, and everybody pitch in.
Yeah,
okay, so we are going to put some ginger in here. Perfect. So everything's ready to be whisked.
All right.
Okay, and I will measure out the carrots. Now the base of this salad is 2 cups of carrots. Okay. And I actually neglected to bring my bigger cup measure, would make this a lot easier. So we are going to do some 2, I think this is much more, 3. This is not the most efficient way of doing it. 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that's about 2 cups of carrots. And what else do we need? A 1/4 cup of the cranberries.
Yep.
You want to get that? We are almost finished here.
Almonds.
And the almonds go last. Maybe we should add the cranberries.
Okay. I hope I don't spill them.
Don't worry.
Whoops. Little messy here, but
That's
that's
okay.
cooking, right?
So sprinkle them in.
And sprinkle.
And then, now, dietitians get really excited about colors, okay? I mentioned before portion, proportion, and color. This is the reason why. When you start putting the very healthful foods together, those plant-based foods, you get these beautiful colors. So perhaps we should put on our dressing, and then we'll top with the almonds. And how much is the almonds? 2 tablespoons.
So they sprinkle this on.
And this dressing, remember, is lemon juice, honey, a little ginger, a little cinnamon. So it's really not adding fat to the dish at all in this case. When I was looking at this recipe, I thought, it's kind of a healthier version of the traditional carrot raisin salad. Did you ever have that? It's kind of a mayonnaise-based salad.
Yes.
But this is similar in look without all of that mayonnaise. And then you sprinkle some of these beautiful almonds on top, and we'll let Katie show you how great this looks. Oh, so there it is. And I wasn't checking my watch, but I think we came in under 5 minutes, didn't we?
I think so.
It was close to it. So it doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to take a lot of time. That looks delicious. And I think we can all agree that it's not something that is insurmountable to add more fruits and vegetables to your diet. Thank you so much, Katie.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
I hope you found this information useful. Remember, moving toward a healthier life starts with just one choice. Change your plate, one food at a time. Thanks so much, and thank you for tuning in to Good Nutrition Made Easy on CCP TV, the educational channel of Community College of Philadelphia. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact the college.
Thank you.